Then, in an acknowledgement part, before starting off this book, Mr. Dharampal ji has given his all informations. Like, I am grateful to the authorities and staff of British Museum, the Indian Office Library, the Royal Society of London, and National Library of Scotland for facilities and assistance received during his research. So he just thanking to the peoples or to the librarians and to that authorities from where he always got help for his all help whatever they have given for his all research what he has done it there. So for that he is just thanking them, and I am also thankful to National Archives of India for permission to pursue their records. I am further thankful to the trustees of British Museum for permission to publish extracts from Ad MS 29233 chapter 3 and Ad MS 4432 chapter 7 and Ad 33976 33980 35292. So these all chapters has been given, like chapter 17, the Royal Society of London for permission to publish the manuscripts A.P.5/22 chapter 4, and to the trustee of the National Library of Scotland for permission to publish extracts from Volker of Bowland Papers 184 A3 chapter 8, unpublished Crown copyright material in India Office Library and India Office record transcript in the book appeared by permission of the Controller of Her Majesty Stationery Officer. So these all papers and these all documents for which like Dharamtal ji is thanking to everyone that after getting these all documents then only he will be able to produce all that proofs whatever he got it from his researches, and which he has presented in his book, okay, Indian Science and Technology. So thus encouragement, advice and support have been necessary in the understanding and continuation of this exploring and research during the past 5 to 6 years. Beside my wife Phillips and my parents Anna Sahib, then Jay Prakash Narayan and K.R. Patel, then Ram Swaroop has provided constant encouragement and advice during his research. The thought leading to it, however, developed over a much longer period and owing their beginning to a large number of friends and colleges who have helped me over the years in my understanding of India and brought me nearer to its valid life. Then he has given some names also like Mobin, Mittal, Shushila, Sham, Krishna, and Chandiwala, then Kapil Dev Pandey, then Jagdish Pandey Mittal, then Sita Ram Goyal, Jay Prakash Sharma, Mulk Raj Sethi, Roop Narayan, Kedar Singh, Triloki Nath Purvar, Krishna Murthy Gupta, Satya Narayan Gupta, Sundar Lal Bahu Gunam, then Sarukant Pariksh, then Ram Bhir Bhai, then Tulsi Banerjee, and then Salig Ram Pathik, then Kumbha Ram Arya. So these all, and Wood and Ellen Wood and many other have afforded me such much of their time attention towards achieving it. I am sincerely beholden to Ram Manohar Lohir and R. Rokshan and Irvati Karve and G. Venkateshwar and Benny Madhu, all of whom are no more Jagdish Wale Patel. So these all people also died in between, and these all people he helped him to get it all these documents and extract whatever things are there in these libraries and these documents, and to integrate everything and to produce everything in front of us. Okay, so they have helped him. And then A.V. Chatterjee, B.L. Sethi, and there are a lot of names are there in that, Mohammad Rafiq Khan and G.D. Bhatia amongst them, has shown continuing interest in his research and have raised important questions and provided valuable suggestions from time to time. I am particularly obliged to Bennett Horowitz and Sylvia Jacobs and Surinder Suri for advising and criticism. The first two have afforded me countless hours during their short stay in India in going over the draft of introduction to as well as the text of the documents included, and helped me avoid many pitfalls. The document reproduced in the chapter 1st and 17th are printed in his volume with their original spellings, punctuations and English. While all possible care has been taken in their reproduction, some error remain in the printed text, and these are because the words are illegible in the originals, and these errors do not make any substantive alteration in the meaning of the concerned passage. So whatever because it's not readable, some documents whichever he has taken, some documents in that some words are not legible. So that's why maybe due to that only he is telling that if some errors are there, then but it will not be like changing the meaning of that particular passage. Okay, so that we need to take care in that. So he has given his acknowledgement concern in the month of June 1971. Okay, now the introduction part will be there for the job this book for Indian technology, science and technology. The present volume is a part of an attention to understand the functioning of Indian state and society some 8 to 10 generation back, and around the period 1750s, when India began to fall under European dominations, firstly in the Tamil Nadu and Telugu area, and afterwards in Bengal and elsewhere. This attempt consisted in a pursuit during 1966 and 17 of some of the vast Indian archival material in the English language lost in the archives of Britain. This volume presents some of the major 18th and early 19th century documents found during this research on the subject of science and technology. The authorities of these documents came to India in various capacities: a military, medical, civil servant of the European government, has travelled, sometimes coming on their own, but more often sent by wealthy patrons or the newly established learned society like the Royal Society of Paris and London, the Society of Art in London, etc., and some like the Jesuits, and came on behalf of various Christian religion orders. According to the European scholarly canons of the time, all these are expert in their respective field and were considered to be competent to report on what they have observed and studied. Most of those included here spent in sustainable part of their active lives in different part of India. Practically all European science and technology accounts related to the science and technology of the non-European countries are the outcome of the 17th and 18th century European quest for useful knowledge in these fields. The nature of the quest itself got wider and more complex with the passing of practically each decade. And few things except finished consumer goods and gold and diamond etc. were noticed in the non-European world by the earlier European travelers, servants of European states, and scientists and technologists etc. This was partly due to the short duration of which most of them spent in any particular area. Okay, so he's just introducing the things like how he has produced all that information for this 8 to 10 centuries back and generations back, and around the period of 1750, and which he has written in around 1966 and 70s. Okay, and the whatever documents he got, that is majorly from the newly established learned societies like Royal Society of Paris and London and Society of Art in London. So these all the major areas from where he got it all documentation. Okay, and then whatever European scientists and technology all accounts will be there, that also he has included whatever maximum extent is available with him. So the preponderant cause was the lack of requisite comprehensives amongst the learned of Europe of the prevailing non-European practices and technologies. Such lack of understanding was even more evident amongst the learned of Britain, who till among about 1800 seem to have lagged behind some of the other part of the Europe in many scientific and technology fields by about 50 years. So, two examples of such lack of comprehensive pertaining to the practice of innovation against smallpox and the use of drill plug. Till 1720, when the wife of then Britain ambassador in Turkey, having got their children successfully involted, begin to advocate its introduction into Britain, the practice of involution was unknown, and the British medical and science world. The whatever he is just giving in this basically he want to just tell that in this particular area, in this particular of years, that European guys, they don't know exactly where these kind of findings like whatever they are having in their science and technology, whatever science and technology they are having that time, so they don't have that much of research with British in medical and scientific world, because they don't have any like particular drilling plugs out there, and how like smallpox they have to fight and all, so they don't have the information out there until that. Okay, so unless they came to India and they found out everything. Okay, because that time when they came India, they found that everybody is doing proper treatment of smallpox and all other diseases. Okay, so proving relatively successful through all for a considering period, vehemently opposed by a large section of the medical profession and theological of Oxford etc. An awareness grew about its value, and various medical men engaged themselves in inquiries concerning it in different lands. The two accounts of evolution reproduced here are a result of the 1720 quest. Similarly, about the drill plug, the drill plug is said has been first used in India in Europe by one Joseph Locatelli of Austria in 1662. Its first introduction in England dated 1730, but it took perhaps another 50 years before it was used on any scale. It was used in India, and according to the author of chapter 8 and 9 sorry, chapter 12 and 13, from time immortal. The observation of this use by the Britishers, however, could only begin in the last decade of 18th century, after its awareness had dawned on the more observant amongst them. So, like small this jig drill plug was there, like and that thing, they are not able to use it. They don't know, because only they got it in the year of 1730 only. So before that, in India it was there. So lot of things they found out from India. Okay, so initially the quest is limited, and queries which are not by the value European learned society and individual patrons to those of their kind who have stayed and wandering in non-European world are fairly simple. In course of time, the knowledge get added to the knowledge, and newer formulation developed in Europe. The quest becomes wider and more sophisticated, and queries begin to be concerned with the more complex. The interest in the Indian manufacture of ice and making of Madras mortar in the processes of Indian iron and steel manufacture, and observatory at Varanasi, Banaras, created as one of the 5 celebrated observations of the world by the Encyclopedia Britannica in its edition till 1823. The research for fewer chemicals and dyes, and for more materials for the waterproofing of the bottom of ship. Okay, so these all things, and arouse out of rapid multiplying but specific European needs. So these all things are mentioned, which was there in the European. Okay, so he mentioned about that. Then it is in the context of widening horizons as well, the urgent need of material and processes, but partially resulting from the constant warfare in which the Europeans were engaged during the greater part of the 18th century. That account of the kind percent here were written and submitted by individual European to their respective patrons. It is in these European writings of the period 1720 and 1820 that one discovers the observed details about science and technology, as well as about the society, institutions, customs, and law of various part of non-European world. Because this period, the European ability of confronting this new world was limited. After about 1820, the knowledge and institution of non-European world also began to have much less usefulness to the problem of Europe. Then further, by 1820, most part of non-European world are no longer themselves. Their institutions, science and technology are not what they were 50 and 100 years earlier, and have met the same fate as their political system and sovereignties by the 1820, and so most of non-European world had become, at least in the European theory and most conventional history text, if not actually in practice, backward and barbarian. So whatever they are having in their text, but they have changed lot of countries text, so that the peoples will not be able to understand their exact origin and all, exact whatever things are there in their country before that and all. So they have done it like that. Europeans, they have thought that we will be a superior, and our history only the people should know, or their histories all should be vanished and all, and they have tried to vanish it, and mostly they have vanished it. But somehow the peoples like Dharampal ji, he taken out some more information about our country India, and he produced the documents in front of everyone on this topic of Indian science and technology. Okay, so but the imagery of backwardness and barbarians, which still served as a desperately label for most of the non-European world was no sudden product of 1820 and any other decade. It grew over a fairly long period, but at such isolated place after about 1780. Many of the most 1780 account reflect the growth of its attitude emblem. Okay, so widespread prevalence no less amongst the learned and scholarly of European ethnocentric bias is dramatically demonstrated by the post 1780 writings of Indian astronomy and observatory of at Benares. Okay, it come through even in the very learned review, which Professor John Playfair, professor of mathematics of University of Edinburgh and academic of distinction, did of the then accumulate European knowledge of Indian astronomy. After a detailed examination, he arrived at the conclusion that the Indian astronomy observation pertaining. So he just taken help from other different college and universities professor, like he has taken here the help of Professor John Playfair. Okay, so who is a professor of mathematics. Okay, so he just got different helps also, which they have helped him to get it all this informations to provide itna 3102 years before Christ appears to be corrected by every consonable test. Such correctness and of observation was possible either through complex astronomical calculation by Indian and by direct observation in the year 3102 BC. He chooses the later explanation. The reason for the rejections of the explanations that these would have been arrived at by the Indian through astrological calculation would have implied that there are Arines Newton amongst Brahmins to discover that universal principle which connected not only the most distinct region of space but the most remote period of duration, and the dilemma Grange that trace through the immensity of both its most stable and complicated operation. It became intellectual earlier for him to concert in the astronomy antiquity rather than its sophistication and scientific capability of its underlying theories. So he checked out the very old data also, which is relevant to the period of 3102 years before Christ. So it's BC, before Christ. Okay, so but even the considering of its very antiquity was of very short duration, with the strengthening of the fundamentalist and evangelical Christian tendency. This concern began to look like blasphemy, keeping in view the European historical premises or originating in the Old Testaments. It was just not conceivable for anything except the stated item to have survived the deluge, which was computed to have taken place in the year 2348 BC. So by 1814, though things India was still being half-hearted, defined by a journal like Edinburgh Review, even where antiquity of Indian astronomy had received a final European dismissal. So that time they are taking things from India, but they are keep on doing it India in a like defending them that no, India don't have anything and all like that. They keep on defending, so that they will keep make they will keep defining or deframing Indians, so that peoples will understand that Indians don't have anything. Only the European guys, they have brought it all this information to us. Okay, so while receiving curves the theory of Earth, and with the Kuvis and ridicules and dismissed the ancient date of Indian tables, the Edinburgh Review took consciousness of the changed attitude and relationship between Europe and the non-European world, and observed, but through the tide of opinion since of some time uh, past, so to have set strongly against the high antiquity of the science of the East. It does not appear that the main argument of the historian and of the astronomy, etc., have ever been refuted. It tried to resolve the contradiction between the cosmic and Christian belief and the earlier date of Indian table by advancing the propositions that the early date of that astronomy and the usual date of deluge may be perfectly reconciled on the uh, supposition that the former is variant of anti-Jewish science, which had escalated the several distractions. Such isolation and controversy was, however, no longer practicable, nor necessary for the viewpoint of European scholarships in what had by then become an exclusively European country. Okay, so even when the ancientness of Indian astronomy has been concerned, as was done by Professor Playfair, it was difficult to admit that the 18th century Indian astronomers and scholars on the subject had any real competency. According to the Playfair, the 18th century Indian astronomers have little knowledge of principles on which his rule was founded, and no anxiety of the better informed. Yet it was only through intercourses with Indian astronomers and by mean of instructions and date received from them that the European knowledge of Indian astronomy would be acquired. It was thus acquired by M. Lee Gentle during his visit to India about 1769. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, during the time of this stay in Hindustan, the Brahmins had been such more familiar with him on account of his astronomical knowledge, and then they usually were with European, and he thus had an opportunity to obtain considerable insight into their method of calculation. In consequence of this instructions, he published table and rule according to the Indian method in the Academy of Science for 1772. So like this Professor Playfair, these kind of peoples, they are keep on deframing the Indian, and they are getting the information from Indian, but they are keep on deframing the peoples of Indians. Okay, but some peoples like they later came, like M. Lee Gentle, he came to India, he mated with other peoples in with Brahmins. Okay, and then he calculated and the method, he got that exact method of calculation, and then which he has published in the year 1772. So the general, the incommunicativeness of 18th century Indian society scholars have speciality in the various field and had two probable routes. One, the usual skeleton of such person, two, and two, the very sophisticated and complex of their theories, which in their view would not have been understood by most European. It is possible that the various science and technology were on the decline in India around 1750. Okay, and perhaps has been a similar course for several centuries previously, but there seem like a little doubt that the process, method, theory, and formula described in the contemporary account, including in the volume, were very much of a living reality in the area of India to which they pertain. Whether they were also used or taught or discussed in most other parts is a matter of detailed investigation, not only into the English language records, but more so in the surviving indigenous Indian records of the period, and also the Indian archival material in other foreign languages. How to mid 18th century Indian science and technology compare with science and technology in earlier period requires similar investigations. The late 18th century European Inco-centric preoccupations had other dimensions also. Some of these are expressed in the chapter 3 and 4, 3 and 5, whereby everything existing elsewhere is visualized to have had an original in India. Our different dimensions has was expressed in prepositions like the Hindu religions had its origin in British Islam, so which they held to be Shweta Dvipa of Indian classics. So though perhaps not so intended, all of these conflicting speculars and formulations ultimately led to the subversions of non-European world. Many directly confirmed the growing European view of the barbarians and ignorance of non-Europeans, and the others served the same purpose by becoming very target of European ridicule and contempt. So they are saying that European guys, they are keep on saying that Indians are like Hindus, the religion had its origin in British Islam, वहाँ पर से start हुआ है, it's there from there. So but not possible, that is not at all possible. So they are keep on giving the world false stories. Okay, so and whatever, like, and everybody knows that Europe is a totally like full of barbarians, means they don't have any knowledge on education, any knowledge of equipments using and all everything. So they are totally like barbarians type. Okay, so now in the second phrase he has given that four of the counters, four of the counts included in the volume deal with astronomy and two with mathematics. The observatory at Benares described by Sir Robert Borker after a visit of it in 1772, still existing more or less intact, and is at present knowledge the man mandir. Okay, it stand only a few hundred yards away from the Vardhana Ghat. Its appearance today seems even more neglected. Okay, so it is tried that one of the 5 celebrating observation of the world, and in India the most celebrated. Okay, so those still intact remain in completely neglected, and counterpart in Britain, France, etc. are generally cherished and serve as a repositionary and center of their respective astronomical knowledge. India owes that much of it itself and its people. That place, like a man mandir, are duly cherished and looked after. Then that described 2 centuries ago, except that a few plates have been fixed, indicating the name of various yantra instruments in Hindi and English, Two other plugs indicate the period of building and date of erection of the observatory. While the building is stated to have been built in the late 16th century, the relevant plug states the erection of the observation in the early 18th. So these all things equipments came in particular years. Okay, then such playing about with the dates of the founding of the observatory, such a crucial tale to tell marker account was published in translations of British Royal Society in 1777, and it put erection of the observatory some two countries. So he made it that tables. Okay, so based on that he has already told that whatever dates they are saying, so they are simply playing with the dates, so that they can like show the all around world that they are more ahead for from any other country. Okay, so these are all things which we need to check it out. And then previously in 1792, the confirming the request of the fellow of Royal Society, and the report of the observatory was received from one J.L. Williams of Benares. That was published in the transcription in 1793. So these all different authors who written the documents stating clearly that these all things are already there in India, what in Europe they are writing. Okay, so one of the two main points where this later accounts as if it passing tried to make was that the observatory only make into being more 50 and 60 years earlier, and was not built in the 16th century as stated by the Bengal commander-in-chief in his article published in 1777. To support this contentions, it produced what it claimed to be the option of the Indian magistrates in Benares. Okay, so and this thing is there. Then migrates and aligned to have said that though the building was built by Raja Munshing for the response of holy and man pilgrims, the observatory was built by the Raja Jeswin, and further it was begun in 1794, but AD 1737, and finished in 2 years, and that the Raja died in 1800, summit AD 1743. So to this was like added the even weightier opinion of the Brahmins in of Benares, one of whom is professor of astronomy in the new former college. According to him, they all agreed that this observatory never was used, not did they think it capable of being used for any nice observation, and believe it was built more for ostentation than the promotions of usual knowledge. Okay, beside these 2 points, the article gave the measurement of various instruments, but stated that from the want of sufficient knowledge in science and astronomy, it has not been able to describe the different instruments and their uses satisfactorily. However, you may rely on the measurement being taken into a greatest exactness. The publish of Banaras Observatory was again taken up in 1798 by Williams Hunter. So Williams Hunter, Rajiv Dixit ji has told about him, about Williams Hunter, and an assistant of a British resident at Marthas, capital of Pune. In his article, some accounts of astronomical labor of Jashwant Sinha, Raja of Ambir or Jayanagar. The interest in Raj Jashwina is explained, rising superior to the prejudices of education, of national pride and religion. So just in a store to enrich his country with scientific truths derived from his origin source, in this particular instant Europe. The right was quite candid and outspoken about his purpose. He said it was always though that after having convinced the Eastern nation of their superiority in policy and in arms, nothing can contribute more to the extension of their own national glory, and then the diffusions among them of the taste for the European science, and the mean of the promotion so desirable at an end. Those among of the native also have been penetrations to see and ingenious to know its superior accuracy and evidence, although to be criticized. The article made an attempt to provide documentary evidence of the Benares adversary as having been the creation of its early 18th century. Raja Jai Singh was quoting from what is called J. Muhammad Shah. If it still existing, much more needed to be known about this mid 18th century documents, how it came to the written, by whom, under those patrons, and in what year. According to this document, having assembled the astronomers and geometrism of the faith of Islam and Buddhism and pundits and astronomers of Europe, etc. Jai Singh bound the girdle of the resolutions about the lines of this soul and constructed several of the instruments of an advisory, and in order to confirm the structure of these observations, the Delhi he constructed instrument of the same kind in Jewish Jaipur and Mantram, and Benares of Ozian, with the foregoing statement from the Aziz Muhammad Shah. And documentary proof ended out there. Okay, and then after the rest added the observatory at Benares having been described by Sir Robert Barker and Mr. Williams. He have only a few remarks to offer in addition to the account deliverable by those gentlemen, and the writer made some more observations on this measurements, etc. So these people, they came to India, they met with this Jai Singh, who is our Raja that time on that particular area, and he had discussed all about the things with him. Then various other Britishers seem to have gone and made reports on the Benares observatory in early decades of 19th century, but the subject soon disappeared from the public discussion. It was reopened 1920 by the author of a guide to the old observatories, and originally published by the Archaeology Survey of India. It stated that Man Mandir, etc., actually built by the Benares Observatory was built about the beginning of the 17th century. The astronomical instruments were made by Jai Singh about AD 1737. It said further the date is not certain, and early ever written given a different one. So based on that particular our archaeology survey also, the dates which European guys they have given to us, that is totally different, which exactly not matching with that present instruments and all whatever it was there built up by that time. Okay, so that is the thing. So we'll continue this thing from there, and then we'll discuss further in this in the later series.